morning, everyone. I am Miss Long, and I've really enjoyed spending this time with you. I know we're separated by distance, but I've enjoyed having this time together and helping you through this distance learning time. So this week is our last week. I know you guys are really excited. I'm really excited. I hope you all have some type of plans for the summer, just to enjoy yourselves, have something fun to do. But thanks for hanging in here and getting as much out of your education as you possibly can. And so I actually have some really exciting news for you. So very important information. I want you to take a minute and just read through this. I'm going to talk to you about what we're doing this last week. In fact, our distance learning TV lessons are going to be going on through tomorrow. So I want you to keep watching. And as you do, we're going to have some questions at the end of each lesson, and you will have the opportunity to email your answer in and get the opportunity to get some prizes. So in fact, at the end, I'm going to have a question. I want you to be looking for the question that I have at the end, be listening throughout the lesson so that you can know the answer and email your answer in for a chance to win some prizes. So we're glad to be wrapping up this week with something a little fun, okay? All right, so over the last few weeks, we have been talking about argumentative writing, and we're going to continue with that today. And what I really want to do today is just review with you some of the most important information that you need to remember as you're going into the 10th grade next year and as you're developing your writing skills, okay? So again, our objective here is write arguments to support claims in an analysis of substantive topics or text using valid reasoning and relevant and sufficient evidence. And argumentative writing it's very challenging, but it's also very fun because it's one of the few times in high school writing where you get to state your opinion and you get to back it up and say, this is my voice, listen to what I have to say. And that's really pretty cool. My students love it. Now, when they first hear argumentative writing, they're like, ugh, I don't want to do that. But once they get into it, they realize, oh, what I think counts. And just because you're in high school, just because you're not in the real world yet, what you're learning now, what you're thinking now, your opinions now really do matter. But what you've got to learn how to do is to back that up and learn how to present yourself in an academic way so that people who disagree with you know how to hear what you say. And they don't just automatically shut you down and say, nope, I disagree. But if you approach it in the right way, people will hear what you have to say. So here is some review, a reminder of what goes into an argument. All right, the most important parts of an argument, and you have to have these in order to have an argument. You have to have the claim. How do you, as the writer, feel about a topic? It's your opinion. And not all argumentative topics, not all topics that are controversial are going to have one specific way of looking at that topic. But usually you're going to have one side or the other, right? And a lot of topics, it's very hard to find a middle ground. But regardless, the claim is how you feel. Grounds are why you feel that way. Okay, it's the reasons for why you agree or disagree with a topic. Justification is backing it up with evidence. That's facts, statistics, examples from maybe even your own personal life, from things you've seen from your friends, your family, things you have seen in the news, anything like that, examples that justify why you feel the way that you do. Now, remember that argument is a little bit different from just everyday persuasion, if you will, because you've been learning persuasion since you were in elementary school, okay? And persuasion is trying to get someone to agree with you, but argument bumps that up a little bit with one really important part, and that is rebuttal, okay? Rebuttal is perhaps even the most important part of an argument, because this is what takes that persuasion, telling people your opinion and why you feel that way. That's all great. But again, remember that there's always that other side, that counterclaim, the way the opposition feels. So in order to actually have an argument, you have to have a rebuttal which shows the weakness in the opposition. Now, if you can show how they're wrong, that's great. But remember that not always are you going to have that wrong side, that there are reasons why people agree with side A, but there's also reasons why people agree with side B. So in order to have an argument, you have to have that rebuttal which addresses that other side. If you agree with side A, you have to show the weakness in side B. You have to have this rebuttal in order to have an argument. And this is what makes that difference between just argument or persuasion and making that stronger argument. And that's what you have to do in order to be a very strong writer, okay? And that's what you'll be doing as you're going into your upper level classes, as you go into 10th grade. You'll see it again in 11th and 12th, and you'll also see it in college. And that's what you need to learn to start doing, is addressing that other side. Show the weakness in the other side. Okay? So as you begin writing, remember that what's important to do is to choose a topic that specifically is argumentative. And you have to answer these questions. What am I trying to prove? Now, if there is no direct answer to this question, you may not have an argumentative topic. Like, for example, a cause and effect paper is very different from an argumentative paper because, is there something that you're trying to prove? Or is it pretty obvious that this is an effect of this cause, right? So you have to make sure that you're not just arguing that, that hurricanes have extensive damage. Well, that's pretty obvious, right? Is anyone going to disagree with you? So you have to remember, is my claim something that I'm trying to prove? Is there someone, the second question, that disagrees with me? Now, again, there are those topics that, sadly, people do disagree even though they shouldn't. For example, it's hard to argue, racism, because who is it that's going to come around and say, oh yeah, racism's a good thing? And yet, we know it happens. So you have topics out there where, there are people like human trafficking. We know it happens every single day. And even though you can't, who's disagreeing with you? Well, it's not so much that you're arguing that human trafficking is a bad thing. We do know that. And the majority of your listeners know that. But what you should be arguing is that human trafficking is an atrocious event that is going on every day. People need to be taking more note of it and need to do something to stop it. Same with racism, same with bullying, topics like that. So just because there may not be someone who vocally disagrees with you, there is still those topics that you can argue and you can force people to make a call to action. Okay? And that's one of the great things about argument. It's one of those, if you can learn to do this, you can make change. And the last question that you should be asking is, do I have evidence to support my claim? And guys, this is where a lot of people, love to state their opinion, right? We all do. We all like to state our opinion, but do we have something to back us up and to make our claim stronger? If you are having a very strong, feeling about something, that's great. But what are you going to use to back you up? If it's just what you've heard from other people, if it's something you saw from Wikipedia, but you have to have some very strong evidence to back you up. We've seen claims all throughout this quarantine about, whether we should wear a mask or not, whether, it's safe to open up the state, things like that. A lot of questions going around, a lot of data being, used, and everyone saying, well, I saw this, but I saw this number, and all these different numbers that we're seeing. So as good listeners and as good writers, what we should be doing is deciding, okay, what evidence should I be using to either agree or disagree with what I'm hearing? And so there, you're doing more than just becoming a learner. You're doing more than just, writing an argumentative topic for your English teacher. You're becoming a strong individual and a strong citizen who is not just listening to everything that everybody says, but you're looking at solid evidence and you're saying, well, I agree with this because of this. So, important life skill. All right, so once you've decided your topic, I said this last week, that if you can learn to organize, you have gotten the process almost completed. And in fact, I always have my students outline their topics, and once they have outlined, they're ready to go. All they're going to have to do is just put that organized information into a paragraph paper, right? That's all they're going to have to do. So organization is the majority of your work done. Okay, and this is also what helps you decide, okay, how do I take all the information that's being presented to me? There's tons of information out there. When I was in high school, we didn't have I'm showing my age here, we didn't have very much internet access. In fact, internet had just become a thing when I was in high school, and we had dial-up internet where we literally plugged the cord into the wall and we got it through our cable. So it made a funny noise. But anyways, and I remember I was just thirsting for more information. I love to learn. That's who I am. And I was like, oh, I can't wait to get a computer so that we can get internet and I can research information. Really, that's what I wanted a computer for. And all this information now is available to you. So, but sometimes that becomes overwhelming, right? Because again, with all of that information out there, how do we know what is good information? And that's an entire lesson on itself. And as you become a stronger writer, your teachers will guide you through that and show you this is good information and this is not so good information. But we need to learn to take that information that we're given and organize it into manageable chunks. So with argument, what you need to do is break it down into two sides. How do you feel about the topic? And then how does the other side feel about the topic? Okay, so as you're looking at your own side, you need to look at reasons why you feel the way that you do. And usually when you have chosen a topic that's argumentative, you already have some reasons why you're agreeing with that side. But that's what you need to be looking at and giving examples of those reasons. You can use a very vague example, but again, how many people are going to listen to that? You need to make it as specific as possible. A story, a news story, an example from your family or from your friends that you know for sure proves your point, right? And then you can do some research and look at some academic sources that say, yeah, this shows that what you're saying really does have some substance to it. Be as specific as you possibly can. Now, remember I told you last week, you need to know that other side as well, if not more than the side that you agree with. Why? A lot of times students like to focus primarily on their side. But what ends up happening is that they get so focused on why they feel the way that they do that they forget that there are people who disagree with them and disagree with them for really good reasons, right? And so what we have to make sure that we do is decide, reasons, why does that other side feel the way that they do? And get the strongest reasons out there. If you focus on the minor reason why people are disagreeing with you, they're going to say, well, you missed the whole point of why I feel the way that I do. So you have to look at their reasons, examples of those reasons, and then remember that really important point, reasons why they are wrong. And again, it may not be that you can prove necessarily that they're wrong, but you've got to show the weakness in their thought process. I get you, but here's the problem that I see with the way that you're thinking. Okay? And that's how we academically disagree with people. Unfortunately, our society has begun to teach us that if we disagree with someone, we dislike someone. And never ever is that true. We should disagree with each other. If we don't, we're all robots created exactly the same, right? It's okay to disagree, but you've got to know why. Okay, don't just get angry with people because they disagree with you. Try to understand them. And understanding is half the journey. I told this story earlier. I think I have a friend who we always disagree in certain political areas, but we're still friends. And we say, we're never going to agree with this. Nope, for sure not. But then we can smile and we can hug and we're still cool. And that's what we really should do. We should learn to do that. Yes, I see what you're saying, but here's why I disagree with that. Okay? And again, that's more than just a standard that you need to be learning in high school because you're turning in a paper for your teacher. That is a life lesson and something that if you can learn to apply in your life, you've become not just a better student, but a better person. Okay, and lastly, composing an argument. Remember to do these 4 things and you have done what you need to do. Now, you can do this in a paragraph form. You can do this in an essay. You can do this in a thesis, dissertation. As you grow as a student, whether you're in high school, if you're writing a paragraph for a teacher, if you're writing a whole essay, or if you're writing a paper in college, you do this process. Number 1, introduce your claim and establish your significance. Okay, its significance. Develop your claim with reasoning and with evidence. Remember to explain why you're thinking this way. Address the opposition and show how it's weak, flawed, or wrong. Guys, if you have not done step number 3, you have not created an argument. You have just regurgitated your opinion. That's all that you've done. But if you do number 3, you have stepped it up and made it an argument. And then number 4, don't forget to conclude by making it memorable and with leaving your audience with something to think about. Remember, that's where you make that call to action. Or that's where you say, this is why it's so important to know about this topic and to agree with the way I feel. This is why I feel this way. Okay? That's where you make that conclusive statement and you make sure that your audience knows what you've said and why you've said it. Okay? All right, and that is your writing process. If you do those 4 things, you have written an argument. Okay? All right, so before I go, I want to remind you that we do have our, you have the opportunity to submit an answer to these questions for a chance to win some prizes. So my question, so take a minute, either take a picture of this or jot it down. My question is, what is the most important part of an argument that makes arguments stronger than just persuasion? I've said it at least 10 times during this video. Okay, email your answer to mcpsstv@mcpss.com for a chance to win those prizes. Okay, so I'm gonna leave this here for just a second and make sure you get it down. And guys, I will see you hopefully in the fall next year. So y'all have a wonderful summer. Please stay safe, have some fun, but don't forget to send in your prizes, okay? Or your chance to win some prizes. All right, have a good summer.